Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om, I bow to the Lord Vasudeva. Joy to you, friends. We're reading from chapter 2 of the Bhagavad Gita, and I don't know why I keep calling it chapter 1. That's been my mistake. Anyway, we are on now reading stanza 18 of chapter 2. The indwelling self is ever changeless, imperishable, and without limitation. Only these fleshly garments can be destroyed. Therefore, O offspring of Bharata, accept your duty in this body and fight. The changeless reality, is a point to understand, because in this world we have relative values, and many people, I was shocked to find that there are courses taught in American universities stating that the Bhagavad Gita is a work of hypocrisy. It's not hypocrisy, it's a deeper truth, but it really becomes a little irritating for somebody who's devoted his whole life to teaching these teachings, to find people come in with such shallow understanding, and because their professors expect to be listened to. They're intelligent idiots is what I would call them. Anyway, the point is that when Einstein said that everything is relative, philosophers leaped on this. Jean-Paul Sartre was a good example, who said that everything is therefore relative, and therefore values are relative. What you think doesn't really matter, it's just your opinion. There's no such thing as objective values, there's no such thing as objective moral truths, and this is not true. And the Bhagavad Gita is explaining it in a very beautiful way. The word here, therefore, it doesn't quite follow, but he's saying that the indwelling self is changeless, therefore do your duty and fight. That's not quite a meaningful, it's a sort of a non sequitur, but he's taking it in relation to everything that he's saying in that chapter. Why should you fight if everything is changeless anyway, and there's nothing to be done, and if you kill, you're not killing, etc., etc., etc.? Well, as long as you are living on a particular plane of existence, the realities that apply to that plane of existence are valid. There's another thing with reality and with morals, and this I pointed out in a book of mine, Out of the Labyrinth, which is now called, which was called originally, I should say, Crises in Modern Thought. But it's really the labyrinth of modern thinking that I was taking people out of, so we've changed the name. And in Out of the Labyrinth, I pointed out that the teaching of Sartre and of others who say that everything is relative, they must keep in mind that when Einstein was talking of relativity, he was relating everything to the speed of light. You have to relate everything to something or other. If it has no relationship at all, then where's the relativity? There has to be a basic point of departure. In us, it's our search for happiness. And when we live in an immoral way, we in the end are sufferers. All you have to do is see people who live immorally, and you see their faces becoming bloated and gross. They see their eyes becoming unhappy. You see their energy depleted. Anybody who, if he's a thief, he tends to look sort of out of the side of his eyes, looking for trouble, looking for people to catch him. Always, anything that you do that is wrong, it will go against your own nature, because you were made as an image of God, and everything that you do must affirm that truth. And if it affirms another truth, if it affirms, for example, well, if it's good for me, what does it matter what it does to you? If you affirm that attitude, you'll develop this kind of selfish attitude, selfish look about you that will make no one want to be around you. People who love other people are loved by others too. These truths, if you eat wrongly, sure, you're free to eat wrongly if you want to. Sartre made the point that man is radically free. Sure, he's free to take poison if he wants to, or eat nails. But his body won't let him do it with impunity. He'll die. And so the consequences of what you do depend on the right use of reason as opposed to just doing whatever you want to. Wrong reason tells you, I can do it because it's not real anyway. Right reason tells me, well, look at me, look around me. This is why it's good to live in society. Other people's mistakes can spare you an awful lot of trouble. This is one thing that's very good, living in community as we do at Ananda, because we have hundreds of people all living together. Some people are more radiant than others. Some people are somewhat lacking in that department, you might say. But always it comes down to how self-involved they are. And when you see people over many years living by these principles, you can see what their way of life has done for them. This teaches you a very good object lesson. We don't have to go through every delusion ourselves. It's enough to see that certain things just don't work for people. And if you think, well, it'll work for me, try it. Why not? You've got many incarnations to suffer if you want to. Sooner or later, we have to come out of this marsh, this swamp of delusion, onto the solid ground, which isn't solid at all, but the solid reality of the Spirit who pervades all things. That Spirit never changes. There is something within us that never changes. You'll see the expression in people's eyes, not the expression, that sort of basic inner self. Each one has a different basic quality. This is very interesting because it's not just the Spirit manifesting equally through all beings. He does and he doesn't. Each snowflake is different, even in form. All forms are different. But more than that, each manifestation of God in its own self is different. When you achieve liberation, you will remember all the lives you went through. That will constitute your part of your individuality. But there had to be some bias at the very beginning that made you take those steps that you took all through those lives. And in each case, it's different. So that deeper self, it can't be touched by anything. But the inner self, that inner expression or reality in the eyes, that too never changes. Many times I meet people and I say, well, I know you. And they say, well, I've certainly not met you before. But I do know them. I know them from other lifetimes. I know people because there is something in them that doesn't change. That inner self, if you take off this garment of a body, you put on a new garment. The garment changes, but if you look at the face, you'll see it's the same person. So we're all actors on this great stage of life. But our goal is to realize that it is only an act, and we have our own deeper reality that is only expressing itself temporarily. Joy to you.